5 years ago, I was friends with a guy named Eric Quinn. I met Eric on the first day of class when I walked in and complimented him on his band t-shirt. I think he was wearing a Metallica shirt, and at the time I was really into them. And right away he started following me around. Eric was one of those awkward kids in our school. He was shunned by most people for his odd mannerisms and bad social skills. It seemed like he was constantly embarrassing himself, which may have been why he had such a hard time making friends. He went through a really cringe-worthy goth emo phase when we were in 9th grade, which I'll never forget. He went to a concert one night, then came back to the school the next day wearing skinny jeans, black nail polish, eyeliner, and probably $70 worth of band merchandise. He kept telling me to listen to this band he had seen. I think their name was Black-Veiled Widows or something. And even though they weren't my cup of tea, I humored him. He showed no signs of leaving me alone though, and I figured he needed a friend. So through gym class, we became buddies. Eric was always talking about something that faintly smelled like bullshit, but was fragrant enough that I couldn't quite call him on it. I remember one day, we were walking endless laps on the track. We had kind of a lazy gym teacher, and all he could talk about was this German chick he knew via webcam. He kept insisting that they were going steady, and that he was going to fly out there and meet her in person someday. Yeah, right. Another time, he told me about all the spirits he could see. He said that they were always there, just staring at him. His favorite one to reference was a guy he described as being an old fat butcher in a blood-stained apron. Eric said his name was Mr. Sorley, but I never paid that much attention to him or his ghost stories. He took them seriously though. Whenever he texted me, his signature was always, "I see dead people." Things went on like this for about 2 months, until things took a turn. One Friday night, I was at a football game and I dropped my phone. The screen broke and did that thing where half of it goes white. Obviously more than a night in a bowl of rice could fix, but I was waiting on my paycheck, so I'd have to go about a week before I could get a new phone. That week, Eric didn't come to school. I wasn't horribly upset, because even though I wanted to always be nice to him and be his friend, he had been getting on my nerves a bit lately. The ghost stories had increased. He was claiming to see a man with a pig snout and bites on his skin, like some kind of animal had started eating him but quit halfway through. The ghost of the butcher with the blood-stained apron was back, only this time he had a sheep's head. Obviously, I thought Eric was just acting out, so I kind of ignored him. That Monday when he didn't come into gym class, I figured he'd be back the next day, but he wasn't. He didn't come back Wednesday either, or any other day that week. I didn't know what to do. I'd lost his contact with my phone. I didn't have his number memorized. And since no one talked to him, I couldn't get it anywhere else, so I wasn't able to contact him. I imagined that someone in his family had gotten sick or something. That weekend, my new phone came in the mail, and I was eager to start rebuilding my contacts list. I went into the mobile provider's store and got it set up, and as soon as it activated, a stream of text messages poured through. The associate at the store saw that and explained, "Yeah, sometimes when texts get sent to you when you don't have your phone, they just get stored in your account until you can receive them. Looks like you're a pretty popular guy." I went out to the car to start reading them. I had 7 messages and 2 missed calls, all from the night I broke my phone at the game. What I read that day still haunts me. 10:16, 9:47 p.m.
Dude, I don't know what's going on, but I think I just saw someone pull into my driveway. I'm home alone and this is kind of freaking me out. My parents aren't coming back until Monday. This is like a start of a horror movie. Haha.
10:16, 10:22 p.m.
Where are you right now? I don't know where I am. It's dark and I'm in a really small space. I don't know what happened. First I saw headlights and then I blacked out, and now I'm here. I tried calling 911, but they didn't help because they've had problems with my brother before. Help me.
10:17, 12:01 a.m.
I've been stuck for hours. I don't know where I am or what they're gonna do to me. I can breathe, but I can't see anything, and it's so cold in here. I don't know what's happening. I'm so scared, man.
10:17, 12:32 a.m. First missed call. 10:17, 12:46 a.m.
They opened the door. Their faces, they aren't human. At least not anymore. They have like pig heads. They aren't taking my phone because I don't think they even know what it is. I don't think they care. Why don't you answer me? I need help. Call 911 or something.
10:17, 1:03 a.m.
Oh my God. They have me. I can't escape. There's no escape. They'll take you too. There's no escape. All there is fear. Only want to be loved. There's no escape. The pigs are coming.
10:17, 1:09 a.m.
Why didn't you help me? We could have at least gone together. You were my only friend now. Now they have me. I can't breathe. I can't see. They want you too. They want us all.
10:17, 1:15 a.m. Second missed call. And that's not all I found. Right after I finished reading this, I got a notification that I had in voicemail. I didn't even want to listen to it, but I thought I owed Eric at least that much, so I hit play. At first it was quiet, just a little bit of static, then just a deep grunting, snorting, squealing sound, like a pig. There was 10 minutes worth of this in the message. I didn't know what to do. I still thought maybe Eric was pranking me, but he didn't come back to school that week either. His parents and the cops came, and they asked our principal to point towards any of Eric's friends to see if they might know where he was. But Eric didn't have any friends that the police could question, at least not any that the school knew about. Our friendship had mostly stayed under the radar. I know I should have came forward and showed them the text on my phone, but I couldn't. I was too scared to. I was too scared of what would happen to me if I did. And after a 3-week investigation, the police declared Eric vanished and closed the case. I always would be haunted by the look on his mom's face when she heard that her son probably wasn't coming back. I've had to live with the guilt of knowing that maybe those texts could have helped them find him ever since. But that's not even the worst part. Sometimes I still get texts with his signature, "I see dead people." They usually just gibberish letters all randomly placed together, but last time there was actually a sentence. "I want to, they want you too, they'll take you. There's no escape from the animals of this world. See you soon. I see dead people." For the first 22 years of my life, I grew up at a boarding school in Connecticut. My mother was a faculty member that taught and coached, and my family lived in an apartment attached to a dormitory. The school was situated between 2 major rivers, and as such, the property of the school goes back to the mid-1600s. The school founders lived in a house on campus that was built in 1639, and near the library is a stone front step of a trading post established in 1635. However, the school wasn't founded until the early 1900s. But you could feel that you were on old land. There was a weight that existed on campus that is very difficult to describe. For 4 years, we lived in a house off campus that was owned by the school that had something strange going on. As a young kid, I felt a foreboding feeling throughout the house, often as if someone was following me down the hall or waiting for me in an empty room. One night, my entire family awoke to a ruckus that sounded like someone dropping a silverware jar from 8 feet up. My dad investigated to find nothing. My sister was often visited by an older male spirit that would sit in a chair in the room and read to her. We thought it was the man that the house was named after, a former French teacher. In that same house, my mother found her grandmother's rosary in a chair that belonged to her nana, after we had just received from our upholsterers. The school had a system of tunnels beneath it that had quite a history. People would claim they would hear people running through the tunnels late at night. People would be dared to go in and would emerge bruised and covered in scratches. The facility workers told a story that once when going to check out a pipe that needed repair, they saw a tall man with long black hair standing by himself staring at the wall. When they called to him, he didn't move. In the infirmary, 6 students reported being cared for by a ghost nurse. They didn't know she was a spirit until the next morning when they told the morning nurse that a woman came to them at night to bring them water. The nurse knew of no people that could have done this at that time. She wore a starched nurse's whites and an old-fashioned nurse's cap. Our main academic building was creepy as fuck. It was straight out of Dead Poets Society. Lots of wainscoting, checkered floors, marble walls. At night, the place was spook central. My sister went there late one night as part of a practical joke that her secret society did. You know, weird prep school thing. As she waited for her friends to show up, she'd called me up from one of the phones in the building freaking out. She heard footsteps, doors opening and shutting, whispering and banging. I heard it over the phone and asked her what it was, and her only answer was,
I have no fucking clue. Where are my friends?
I had no idea where they were. She stuck around for another minute before hightailing it out of there. There are absolutely more things about what had happened at the school, but let me just start off by saying that the past month was one of the worst times of my life. This September had a good, even a great start, but later on, everything started going south. I'll tell my story in a chronological order just as it happened. First off, let me introduce myself. I am a 16-year-old high school student named Catherine. I don't have many friends, mainly because I'm not awfully outgoing, and the only time I'm really noticed is when I manage to embarrass myself, which happens more often than you'll think. I did have one friend though, but she moved out of country at the beginning of the summer, so I was even lonelier than I was before. And this summer was pretty dull considering I spent most of it locked in my room, surfing the internet. Seeing only my computer screen and my family every day made me pretty ecstatic for the beginning of my second year of high school. And that's not what you'll hear every day from a high school student. But the thing is, there aren't many things you can do in this town if you're friendless just like me. I live in a small, peaceful, almost boring town. You know the type. Nothing really happens here. We don't have any major sports events or music festivals or, well, anything really. But we do have something most of these small, boring as fuck towns don't have. A real 100% true fucked up story about a serial killer. I know it sounds terrible that I'm almost bragging about this thing, but it happened 10 years before I was even born, so it didn't really affect me much, and everyone got over it already. Almost every kid in town knows the story. A maniac armed only with a single meat chopper killed completely random people. His victims were of different ages, sexes, social classes, but there was only one thing that bonds all the murders. He always chopped off the fingers of his victims, taking them God knows where. They called him the finger chopper. Pretty creative, right? Anyway, the psycho was never caught, but he did stop around the 7th murder. I guess the town got alert too much, and he just couldn't go on. Police only had one suspect, some homeless guy, but they never really had any real evidence against him. I heard he died a couple of years after the killing stopped, and the whole town was rejoiced. Now, after all those years, the adults never mentioned it. They wanted to forget about the tragic past, but the kids were a whole other story. You know how they are, scaring each other and retelling the story and adding a few disgusting details just to make it scarier. And I have to admit, there were some nights when I couldn't fall asleep without holding my father's hand. I never told my parents what I was so afraid of. They always guessed it had something to do with monsters under my bed, or a ghost, or some other childish boogeyman. And now you can imagine how sad of a town it really is if this is the only interesting thing you could tell about it. And now that I think about it, I think I'm the only creep who knows the story to every single detail like this. No wonder no one hangs out with me. So there I was, a typical lonely girl at the beginning of her sophomore year, when something so unexpected, so incredible, so freaking unbelievable happened. A guy asked me out. Yes, a real guy from school, and not just any guy, but the guy I had a crush on since the beginning of high school. I had a huge crush on Mark ever since he asked me to land on my pencil. I probably sound pathetic and sad, but I was a 16-year-old girl who just got asked out by her crush. Needless to say, I was excited for days. I couldn't wait for that Sunday night. I just wanted to fast forward the time. I have already picked out what I was going to wear, and I even practiced kissing on my palm. When that day finally arrived, I was so ready. We agreed to meet in the local park at 9 p.m., but I got there a little early, and of course, he wasn't there yet. No problem, I thought, as I sat on the bench and started playing with my phone. But as the minutes passed, I started getting more and more worried. He was still coming, right? About 30 minutes past 9 p.m., I realized that he wasn't coming. He stood me up. I ran home with tears rushing down my cheeks. I asked myself, how could I be so stupid? Of course he asked me out as a joke, or a bet or something like that. Who would ever want to go out with me? That night I was drowning myself in self-pity. My dad came home from work pretty late, and my mom explained to him that I came home crying over a boy. They wanted to talk to me, but I locked myself in the room and refused to talk to anybody. A typical teenage sob story that you probably don't want to read about, so I'll skip the tears and suicidal thoughts and get straight to the point. Tomorrow when I came to school, I noticed that Mark wasn't there, and I was glad he wasn't. I think I would cry again if I saw him. It was just a regular day at school, until our homeroom teacher gathered us up in a classroom to tell us something important. We all thought it probably had something to do with an exam that was rescheduled or something like that, but when our teacher spoke with a serious tone, we knew something wasn't right. "Children," he started. He never called us that. What was going on? "Something terrible has happened. Now please, before I tell you, I want this to stay between us for the time being. Your parents have already been informed." The classroom was silent. Everyone waited to hear what the teacher had to say. "Your friend Mark is absent today, as you probably noticed." The teacher continued and sighed. He had a desperate look in his eyes, the one his students never saw before. "Last night, Mark lost both of his parents." The whole classroom gasped, while teacher tried to continue, but failed. After a short pause, he said, "I'm not allowed to tell you any details, but please be considerate for your friend. He's going through hell right now, and he won't be back anytime soon. But when he does come back, try to be there for him. Talk to him, you know? Let him know you're there and when he needs you. He has to stay strong. We all do." Our teacher finished and said he'd be back soon. When our teacher left, the classroom had a huge uproar. Mark's closest friend broke down in tears, and everyone else started discussing what happened. I wanted to cry too. I wanted to scream. I wanted to jump out of that window. I was blaming him the whole time last night. I wished so many terrible things to happen to him. I was sitting at my desk, silently sobbing, and for once, I was glad that no one was noticing me. Everyone around me was theorizing on what could have happened. Some students even called their parents to ask if they knew something about this, and all the answers were the same. No one knew any details about this, until one girl's parents said something concrete. Mark's parents were murdered? Everyone went nuts. The cries became louder and inconsolable. I felt nauseous, and I was trembling uncontrollably. And you can only imagine what happened when we heard that whoever killed his parents chopped off their fingers. All of the noise probably disturbed the teacher who came into the classroom. Unable to do anything about alarmed and upset students, the teacher sent us all home. The rest of the day was pretty much a blur. I spent most of it sobbing into my pillow. I lied to my parents that I was feeling feverish, just so I could miss school. I think they knew I was lying, but didn't want to make me feel even worse, so they allowed me to take a week off. I was really shaken up by what happened. The mixture of fear and sadness followed me everywhere. I couldn't focus on one thing for more than 2 minutes. All I kept thinking about is what happened. I was starting to feel a little bit better when the weekend arrived. I even agreed to help my mom around the house to get my mind off things. While she was doing dishes, I was in charge of the laundry. I was down in our basement, separating white and colored clothes. When I was done, I started looking for fabric softener, but it was nowhere to be found. I called for my mom, but she couldn't hear me calling her from the basement. Annoyed, I started shuffling through the shelves, and I noticed a softener sitting on the top of the shelf. Of course, it was too high for me to reach it, so I started carefully climbing the shelf so I can get it. On my way up, I managed to knock down a couple of cardboard boxes, but I was too focused on my goal. When I finally grabbed the damn thing, I hastily jumped off and my bare foot landed on something soft. I looked down, and what I saw sent shivers down my spine. There were 20 fingers lying on the floor.